Hey friends, Sean from Draft Therapy here, and this is another Michigan Mandatory Brewery video. Today we are at Ascension Brewing Company in Novi, Michigan. This is, to me, I believe it's a mandatory because they just do so many different styles well. They are really known for their New Englands and their stouts, specifically probably their Barrel Aged Stouts, also their sours. But they do have different stuff. They do have lagers, they do have lighter beers. I think the ABV kind of trends a little bit higher, so if you're looking for a low ABV kind of situation, you might be out of luck. What's that?
Bring a DD.
Yeah, definitely bring a DD. So today, John, tell us what you're. Oh, and this is my co-host of the Dewey Pod Monster podcast. We have John Farner here. John, what are you drinking, and tell us what you think.
So I have Betis, which is a dark lager. I've not had this before, so I don't know anything more about it other than that. Nothing crazy on the nose, but it's nice and malty, kind of a little bit of a dusty smell to it. So I don't know if this is the trend with the Year of the Lager, but I've been seeing more and more...
Hashtag Year of the Lager.
I've been seeing more and more dark lagers pop up, hit and miss here and there. This is a really good one. It's got a really nice sweetness to it. But dark lagers, I don't want to go as far as to call it like a chocolate type note to it, but almost like a butterscotch or a caramel note back into it, which is different than most of the ones I've had, but I wouldn't put this quite in the refreshing category, but it's got a nice roasty, malty taste to it. Again, this might be the wrong time of year for it, just because I think this might be better fit in like a fall beer, but it's a really delicious dark lager. So.
And I have a Meeting of the Bobs, which is a tropical stout. Putting a nose on it, it definitely has a sweeter kind of vibe to it. Just poured it down myself a little bit. So it has a nice kind of medium mouthfeel. It's 5% actually. So it's really kind of, it makes you feel like it's got a little bit higher ABV. Even the look of it, you mentioned before we started recording that the look of it was a little bit darker.
It's got a
thicker.
very dark tan head, which for a lighter stout you usually don't see. You see more of that like whiter pearly type head.
Yeah, and the mouthfeel for this even tastes a little bit thicker than 5% is pretty astonishing. I mean, that it would be 5% and have this much flavor to it. But it has that little bit of a sweet kind of coconut flavor, a little bit of those sweeter kind of tropical notes, something that you would expect. I mean, tropical stout is probably a pretty good descriptor because it has those sweeter, fruitier kind of notes. When I think of stouts, I generally think more of those kind of those malty, like roasty vibes, a little bit maybe of a caramel coffee, but this has more of like a sweeter kind of vibe to it, but definitely still has those kind of roasty notes to it. Yeah, I would recommend this for sure. Like, I don't know how long this has been on tap.
I'll probably come back around to that before we leave. So.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about a couple more beers here as we do on these mandatory Michigan Brewery videos. But yeah, we'll be back in just a few seconds, and we'll talk about the next beer that we have here on tap, and we'll probably talk a little bit about more why Ascension is one of those Michigan mandatory breweries. So we'll see you in a few seconds. All right, back for part two. We're still here at Ascension Brewing Company. We have ordered the Millennials. Millennials is basically Ascension's Berliner Weiss. So they're a little bit sour, maybe a little bit of a salty, that's more of a Goza style. So, but with Berliner Weisses, they're wheat beers, but they're sour. So what we have here, John and I each have one each. We have the OG, and then we have the fruited. What we're gonna talk about first is the OG. So let's check it out.
Cheers. Oh yeah, you still get that Sour Patch.
So this is a Berliner Weiss that's brewed with Sour Patch Kids. They dump a bunch of Sour Patch Kids into it after brewing, I believe, to kind of condition it on the Sour Patch Kids.
Wow. That mouthfeel is fantastic on this. It's been a couple of years since I've had this beer. I remember really liking it. Kind of really getting the sweet side of the Sour Patch Kids more than the sour side.
Yeah.
The sugar. So Sour Patch Kids to me have a really like distinct sugar flavor compared to other sugars, I guess.
Yeah.
And that really pops out on this. Almost got like a really dry, biscuity finish, which is, to me, something I find in a lot of sours I do like.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just this version or this beer in general, but it's really hitting on those citrus notes and kind of pulling that out and finishing with a nice, dry, biscuity finish for me.
Yeah, it does. It dries out a little bit. To me, this is like I don't know a better way to explain this than to say like getting a fresh bag of Sour Patch Kids, ripping it open, dumping a bunch of them, different like whatever colors into your mouth at once, and just kind of shoveling it into your mouth, chewing it up, and that's like the vibe that you get from this. It doesn't. This is one of those.
It doesn't hurt your teeth as much. Which is good.
And your jaw, you get that salivary glands, but it's like, to me, this is like just a really good example of a beer that doesn't taste like a beer. Like, I don't know people that aren't into beer if they would say that, but I think that if you brought somebody in here that wasn't into beer, you could give them a millennial and be like, yeah, just try this beer, and if they like Sour Patch Kids, they're going to love this beer, and that might open it for other
It's a really good beer to give someone who says they don't like beer, but you want to kind of take them outside the box. You're not getting any type of Budweiser, Miller vibes or anything like that.
Oh yeah, not at all.
You're in a whole. You'd almost be better off like kind of pitching this to someone who likes seltzers as opposed to beer.
Oh yeah, this is more. Yeah, this is definitely more like a gateway style beer.
For sure.
So now we're going to move on to the fruited style, which they said is what, like raspberry, like
tangerine,
basically tangerine orange, like more of a berry orange kind of vibe.
Nose is definitely like fresher.
Yeah, it has more of that raspberry kind of nose.
So I'm not getting the stickiness that I got off of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels more like a natural sugar as opposed to, I guess, Sour Patch Kid sugar.
Yeah, fructose or something.
It's not sour either. It's a lot more on the fruited side of a fruited sour than the sour side of a fruited
The mouth feels a little bit heavier.
Heavier, but not sticky.
Yeah, right.
So,
and I feel like, I don't know, between the two, I think I prefer the OG version, the original version. This is like a good diversion from that, but I think if I'm going to come in for this specific style of beer, I'm going to go more towards the OG.
Honestly, I think if you're going to come in for this specific beer, you're better off doing something like this where you get them both, because really they both shine in their own way.
Yeah.
This is, to me, this is a coin flip. Like, I could see having days where this would be the one that I want to go to for whatever reason, and I could have other days where I just have a sweet tooth and I want to go to this more fruited, sweeter, I don't know if it's more sugary, but it kind of tastes more sugary type vibe with it. So this is definitely more desserty than this one.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why this is a mandatory Michigan brewery, because they have things like we just talked about. You had a dark lager, I had a tropical stout. They have things like this where it's a fruited sour or Berliner Weiss, and even between these two very similar styles, they're very different. But they also do, they're big on New England styles. They're big on IPAs, a big IPA house. I think right now we're not looking at too many IPAs, but this is kind of an anomaly. I think for the most part they do a lot more IPAs, and we're not really seeing many stouts. I think they have a couple stouts. And that's funny because there's 4 IPAs or pale ales, like pale ale and IPA, and I'm saying it's not a lot. So this is actually a pretty slimmed down menu. But this is I think Ascension is one of those places where they do so many different styles very well. The brewers are very competent. They do a range of styles just really well, and that's always something that I look for in a mandatory, like a must-stop kind of brewery that I want to stop at. All right, so we'll come back next segment with a few more beers. I think we're going to move on to maybe, I don't know if there is something lighter, but we'll move on to the next thing, and you'll see.
We'll figure that out in 6 ounces, whatever this is.
12 ounces, whatever we have. 10 ounces, 8 ounces, whatever. Between the two.
Problem for later.
Math is tough. All right, we'll see you in a few seconds. All right, we're back for round 3. This time we have a little bit of a different vibe here. We asked if we could get something a little bit different. So what we have here is Tarut. This is a New England hopped Pilsner. We have, what is this, Papa Daddy Ale, which is a pale ale. And then we have...
It features Dave, and Dave is awesome.
Potion Mixing, which is a sour style IPA. So let's run through these. I'll drink out of the can. John will get the glass.
So fancy.
Yeah. Let's talk about yours first, and then I'll go through and...
So this has a super, fresh, kind of, I don't want to go as far as to say flat, but it's not like a abrasive nose at all. This is a very, very light Pilsner, which I really appreciate for this brewery especially, because you don't get a ton of light beers out of here.
Yeah.
Does that say what the ABV is on this?
This is a 5.5% ABV.
Okay. See, I would have started with that had I known. But this is...
It's got that New England nose to it, or New Zealand kind of nose to it, a little bit of a bitter.
If you wanted like a mower type beer, this is about as close as you're ever going to get from this place for a mower type beer.
Yeah.
Very easy, very good summer type vibe to it. Very just very drinkable. Like I dig this a lot. This is right in my wheelhouse. So.
All right, so next up we have Papa Daddy Pale. It is a West Coast style pale
got a good
ale.
nose on
It is 6.2% ABV.
It's got a lot more of an IPA type nose on it.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit. It has more of that
Coffee,
kind of
citrus.
grassy, dank,
Yeah.
resinous kind of smell to it. Maybe earthy, hoppy kind of deal.
It's got a little bit dank and resinous is why I would say the body is on it for sure.
It's a little thicker body than
A little bit, especially that's a pale ale.
for a pale. Yeah.
So, for a pale ale especially, it's got a more dank body for sure, but that is a very, if you're into that IPA thing and you want something that's not quite as heavy as, say, a Hop Slam or, whatever, something that's heavier and more, gonna make you feel like you just drank 16 ounces of beer.
It still retains that same kind of flavor, that same kind of IPA flavor, but it's just a little bit lighter body, a little bit lighter taste, but it maintains that same kind of feel, which is what you'd expect from a pale.
Yeah, for a guy that doesn't go to IPAs or that style very much, this is something that if I was on a beach, I could totally see myself enjoying this and just kind of sitting in the sun in it for 5 minutes, being like, oh, it's hot and sunny and whatever, and then being like, I'm supposed to be inside in the dark where people don't see me.
Yeah. And this is Potion Mixing, which, like I said, is a sangria sour IPA. John doesn't have a taste of this, but I'll tell you all about it. It doesn't have a whole lot of aroma to it.
I'm so shocked that it doesn't have a more colorful body.
Yeah, we were kind of expecting it to be maybe more of like a rose kind of tint or something, like a sangria. I guess you can make sangria with white wine, but...
No, I don't think you can.
Okay, well, maybe not. But it doesn't have a whole lot of, there's not like a whole lot of aroma jumping out. But
We said in a previous episode that we don't know about wine, but I don't think you can make it out of white wine, so.
Oh yeah, this has that kind of spicy, go ahead and try it. Has that spicy kind of, almost, it has a wine kind of vibe to it.
The nose on that's really, really nice.
I didn't really pick up much of a nose at all on that.
It's like a very light,
subtle
fruited nose. It is subtle, but it's very refreshing, very approachable.
Yeah, and the flavor of it is really, it has a really nice kind of heavy body to it. It has that sour quality to it, but it also has very citrusy, like orangey, there's like a spice to it, like a spicy kind of vibe to it as well.
It's like a fruit punch with mulled spices.
Yeah, that's a really good kind of, I don't know, dissection of it. It does have like a very much a fruit punch kind of vibe, but it's a little bit spicy and maybe more, leaning a little bit more towards the orangey side. As we talk about the Michigan mandatory breweries, John, tell us why you feel like this is a mandatory for you.
I've been coming to this place since the day they opened, and this place has always had their finger on the pulse as far as being innovative, sometimes through just sheer creativity, sometimes through forced innovation. Whatever the case is, they do a really, really good job of giving you something that is different but the same at the same time. It's another brewery where you come to and you might find things that don't hit your flavor palate to an extent, but I've yet to come here in the 7 years they've been open, I think.
Has it been that long?
Well, I was just a member up there since 2015.
Yikes.
So. However many years they've been open, that I've had a beer that I'm like, this is a bad beer. That's not the case. There's no bad beer here. I personally love this place for their food menu almost as much. This is the only place I say I love their food menu as much as their beer menu, and I mean it as a compliment. But this place, from top to bottom, their high-end beers are amongst the highest end beers that you can get in Michigan. You know, their Gorilla Juice lines hold its own with the KBS's, the Expedition Stouts, and so on of the area. And then you top it off, you got an awesome staff here, which is a big thing for me. Like, you got really cool people that, you know, obviously if you don't know anyone, they're going to be a little different, but if you get to know people here, they really do take a genuine interest in your day-to-day life, and more than just seeing you as a tip or a bar tab or anything like that. So this place is really, they treat you like you want to be treated, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, I think we've talked more to the people that are here, like Adam. We talked to Adam, the owner. We've talked to several people that have just come by to say hi. So it's a place where if you kind of get ingrained into it, it feels like you're kind of part of, like we said in the drafting table, it feels like you're at Cheers. You know, after a while you start to pick it up. Like John mentioned, they have a great kitchen, they have great food, so I feel like this is a place that you could bring somebody that might not be into beer, but you could find something on the menu. We obviously drank a few things that were canned, So there's a few things that you could try that might not necessarily be up there, but you can buy it in cans and drink it here. They have seltzers, they have the stouts, they have IPAs, they have New England style IPAs.
Thick series, which is the whole smoothie
Yep, the smoothie kind of deal.
I don't think is on today. But
I don't think they have it here, but you'll see it on store shelves.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, so this is Ascension Brewing Company again. This is why we kind of consider this to be a mandatory Michigan brewery. So until next time, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy, my special guest, John from the Dewey Pod Monster podcast. Until next time, drink craft beer, support your local breweries like these guys here in Novi, Michigan. Until next time, don't forget to treat yourself to a little Draft Therapy. Thanks for watching. Cheers.